So I am Professor Laura Templeman, and it is always my honor and my privilege to host these talks. I'm honored to be able to do it and to every semester be able to share these talks. I look forward to hearing your wisdom, Venerable Children, as always, and I will turn the microphone over to Venerable Children.
Thank you very much, Laura. Yeah, I've been giving talks at NIC for many years now, and it's always quite interesting, the topics that the college comes up with, that Laura comes up with for these talks. So tonight we'll be talking about science and technology in service of society. And I want to thank you, Laura, for organizing all of this and everybody for attending. This is, I think, the fourth time I've given a talk, an NIC talk over Zoom. So someday COVID will be over, hopefully, and then we'll all be able to meet at that very large room at NIC. Okay, so I always like to start a talk with a little bit of sitting in silence to just calm our mind down, and then generating our motivation. Then I'll speak for a little bit and open the floor to questions and comments. Answers are not guaranteed. Okay, so let's start with coming home to your breath. Just breathing normally and naturally without forcing your breath or deep breathing. And as you're well aware of the in-breath and the out-breath, also be aware of how your breath connects you to the rest of the universe, how all of us are breathing the same air and recycling it as we produce carbon dioxide and the trees give us back more oxygen. If you get distracted, just notice that, but come home to your breath. So do that now for a minute or two, let the mind settle down. Then let's take a moment and cultivate our motivation. And coming back to that feeling of interconnectivity that comes from sharing the same air, the same earth, the water, the heat, with an awareness that we aren't individual, inherently existent, separate identities, but rather we are interconnected and we influence each other and are influenced by others and by our environment. And so when we look for happiness, which is what all of us want, we can't really think about it in terms of my happiness and forget everybody else. Because when we're interconnected, what happens to us influences others, and what happens to them influences us. So simply working for our own benefit, our own welfare, it's not very realistic, in that it's hard to be happy without those around us also having happiness. So let's generate the motivation to really work for the well-being of all beings. And that starts out with not harming them and continues on with benefiting them as much as we can. And so with that kind of motivation and really extending our wish not to harm and our wish to benefit as far as we can, to include as many living beings as we can. And let's make that our motivation for sharing the evening together tonight. And then slowly open your eyes, come out of your meditation. So I want to talk a little bit about that motivation I just led, because in Buddhist terms, our motivation is the most important thing we do in any activity. So it's not how we look to others. It's not how much fame or money we get. It's the quality of our intention. So I want to talk a bit about that. And you might say, well, wait a minute, I thought we were talking about science and technology in service of the world or in service of society. Well, you know, what does science and technology serving society mean? Is that just a matter of the government or private industry dedicating such and such amount for different research or to build different things? Yeah, what does it mean to benefit society? Is benefiting building more armies and weapons, or is benefiting your intention? Does it depend on the mind? So I think that these are kind of crucial questions. So I'm speaking as a spiritual practitioner, particularly as a Buddhist. So don't ask me about how the government should allocate money and the different departments and balance the budget. That's not my area of expertise, okay? My area of expertise is helping us look at why we do what we do and how we can create better motivations that will bring better results, not only for ourselves, but for everybody else. Okay, so this feeling or this awareness of being interconnected is really important. And what is interesting, and I don't know, I wish we were in an audience together where I could have more dialogue with all of you, but to ask you, you know, do you feel more connected to society in general now or less connected? And what makes you feel connected? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think COVID has brought a lot of that to the front for many people because the way we relate to people socially has changed a lot. But the feeling of connection, it does have something to do with how we relate socially. But the feeling of connection with others comes from inside of our own heart. Yeah, it's something that we can cultivate. And if we actually cultivate it, it benefits us. Because we often go around feeling like I am an individual. This is, you know, Western culture. Yeah. I am an individual. I am unique. I have to make my stamp. I have to be famous and rich and powerful. And I have to win. And I'm not going to lose. And it's all about me. And we think that making our life's goal all about me is going to make us happy. Okay. So I ask you, do you know anybody who is really, truly happy? They never get in bad moods. When things don't go their way, they don't get bummed out. They don't get frustrated. They're not disappointed. Do you know anybody who never gets mad and takes it out on other people? You know, here we have a society where it's all about me and everybody's going around working for their own benefit, thinking that that's the key to happiness. And yet, do you know anybody for whom that worldview has worked to bring the happiness that they want to have? Yeah. Do you know anybody who has enough money? Yeah. Who says, yeah, I have plenty of money. I'm not going to make any more. Yeah. Do you know anybody who has enough love or enough appreciation or stable self-confidence? Yeah. When we look, you know, the belief behind our society, what we are told to do and be to have happiness, we follow that, but it doesn't work. but we keep following it, thinking that if we only try harder to work for our own benefit, someday we will be successful and be king or queen or whoever you are of happiness. And yet nobody, who thinks like that has really attained happiness. Not any kind of lasting happiness. Fits of giddiness where you think, oh, this is wonderful. And how long does that last? Okay. And we've had times of pleasure, but that hasn't really brought inner satisfaction either. I think pleasure and inner satisfaction are very different things. Don't you? Yeah. I mean, pleasure, yeah, we can have it. It comes, it goes, doesn't last very long. But real inner satisfaction, feeling good about ourselves, feeling satisfied with how we live our life and how we relate to other people. Yeah. That is a whole different ballgame. And many people don't really stop to examine that or to ask that question in their lives. Okay, so that's why I really, wanted us to start out by, deliberately bringing up this feeling of connectivity with others and to ask ourselves what makes us feel connected. Yeah. Now, how it seems, I will get around to science and technology. Don't worry about that. But, it seems like right now, what makes people feel connected is things like wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, having a vaccination or not having a vaccination, voting red or voting blue. It seems like that's how groups of people are forming now to feel connected with others over things like that. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Do you feel connected to people in that way? Or we feel connected because we root for the same sports team? Yeah. Do people in Idaho root for Gonzaga? Or that's too much of a stretch? Yeah. Or, do we feel connected because we have the same religious identity or the same national identity, the same racial identity? Look at what makes us feel connected. It's all things that are little attributes that we say, I am a this. Okay. Or I like this. So I want a vaccine or I don't want a vaccine. I will wear a mask. I won't wear a mask. Okay. I vote red. I vote blue. I cheer for the, what did they call them? The Zaggies? What do you call the Gonzaga people? Yeah, you can tell how much I follow sports. But that you cheer for them or you cheer for NIC teams. I don't know what they're called either. Okay. But what kind of connection is that? Yeah. Do we connect with our hearts? Yeah. Do we trust other people? Are we a trustworthy person for other people? We always go around looking for people to trust, But do we ever think about making ourselves into a trustworthy person? Or do we just assume we're trustworthy without really examining if we are or not? Okay, so I'm bringing all of this up because if we want to talk about science and technology in service of society, we have to understand what it is that holds society together. And what does service to society mean? Yeah, if you're in a tech field, yeah, do you serve society for the benefit of society or for your own financial benefit? The last few weeks, Facebook, now called, what did they change themselves to? Something called, it starts with an M. Meta. Okay. Yeah. And we've had, they've been doing testimonies before Congress, and it's come out how much, at least that tech company, and I imagine most of them, hold money as more valuable than honesty. Yeah. And they don't want to kick certain people off their whatever I don't have the vocabulary for this. I know what it is, but they won't, their platform. They won't kick people off their platform. Yeah. If they're lying, because they want the money that comes from advertising. And if you can say lots of things that make people angry and divide people more and make them madder at each other, then more people come to your sites. Facebook makes more money off the ads. And is that service to society? That you make money by spreading disharmony throughout society? Yeah, that's not service to society. And yet companies feel it, and their investors feel, if we make a huge profit, that's good. Yeah, it's good for us, and it provides jobs for all those other people who are not quite as good as us. Okay. So I think we have to look beyond our current standards for what makes us feel connected to other people. And in Buddhism, we have a practice that is called equanimity. And it's based on seeing that everybody wants happiness and no one wants suffering. And that we may have different nationalities or religions or racial groups or interests or socioeconomic status or education level. We may wear masks or not. We may yell at the school board or not. We may cause disruption on airplane flights or not. But all of us are wanting happiness and not suffering. And if we can become aware of that, because that's a universal thing, and it's for all people. It doesn't matter where you live, what country you're in. Everybody wants happiness. Nobody wants to suffer. People have different things that make them happy. Right now, they're experiencing different kinds of suffering, but the wish for happiness and to avoid suffering is universal. And when we can really tune into that, then we know something very, very important about each and every living being that we encounter in our life. Because you can look in their heart and what is of greatest importance and value to them. Happiness, not suffering. And when you can look in people's heart with that as the main thing that you're seeing, then all the other differences don't seem so important. And we can find some way to connect with everybody, despite the different identities and political beliefs and income levels and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. And when we can connect with people on that kind of heart level, it's quite remarkable. Yeah. Because then everywhere you go, you have friends. And His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, who's one of my teachers, that's his attitude very much towards life. He says, wherever I go, whoever I meet, I see them as a friend. So coming from his side, whoever he encounters, he sees as a friend. Yeah. Now, many people in this country, whenever they meet somebody new, it's with a little bit of suspicion. What political party are you? Are you vaccinated? Why aren't you wearing a mask? Yeah. What do you do on Sunday morning? Do you go pray? Or are you at Vegas? Yeah. So we tend to look at people with suspicion. Will they help me? Will they harm me? And actually, the best way to look at people is, how can I help them and avoid harming them? So instead of just being focused on ourselves and on our own welfare, really think about how our thoughts and actions and words affect other people. And try and refrain from harming, whatever kind of harm it is. Yeah. Try and be of benefit. Yeah. Because if we do that, other people are happy, but we feel peaceful in our own hearts. And as the Dalai Lama once said, if you want to be happy and you want to be selfish at the same time, then the best way is to take care of other people. Okay? So if you want to be selfish, but you want to be happy, take care of others. Because if we turn our mind towards taking care of others, yeah, then others respond in a very wonderful way to us, quite differently than if we approach them with fear, distrust, anxiety, or hostility. But even more psychologically, we feel content inside. There's a peace inside. There isn't regret over how we treated somebody else, or what we said to them, or the painful look on their face when we let them have it. Yeah. Instead, we can see that we actually have the ability to influence others in a way that makes their life better, just by small things that we do. Doesn't have to be big things, but small things that we do can bring a smile to someone's face, can reassure them, can encourage them. And I was a teacher before I became a Buddhist nun, and it became really evident to me in working with the different children in my classroom that all it takes is one adult who really believes in a child to change that child. And if it's a child who's having difficulty in school and difficulty at home, one adult connecting to that child and caring about that child and encouraging that child, can really impact their life in an enormous way. Not just now, but so many of their life habits and ways of being in the future. Okay. So to benefit others it doesn't involve some big production. Yeah. We don't have to be Warren Buffet and give away our money. We don't have to be Mother Teresa, okay, taking care of the dying in Calcutta. We just have to be who we are in our own environment and have an attitude of kindness towards everybody we encounter, including animals, including bugs. Yeah, I say that because where I live is out in the countryside. We have so many bugs. Yeah. Stink, right now is the season for stink bugs and flies. And in the spring, we have ticks. In the summer, we have mosquitoes. And then there's a whole variety that hang around of different bugs that are around all year round. But actually, those bugs and me, we're exactly the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Okay. What makes me happy doesn't necessarily make a bug happy, and what makes a bug happy doesn't necessarily make me happy. But as living beings with feelings, we're the same. And so, if we train our mind to look at beings that way, there's one little bug that's flying around my computer right now. Then you can feel some connection to even a bug, let alone all the people in your environment, and especially the people in your family, who are the people that we often take for granted. Okay, now how does all of that relate to the topic we're supposed to be talking about tonight? Okay, so science and technology are two of the big occupations right now, and probably fastest growing, not necessarily industries, but jobs that people are involved in. Yeah. And what is the motivation if you become a scientist, if you become a tech person? Yeah. What is your motivation? And is your motivation to serve society with the work you do? Or is the motivation primarily to make money to spend on yourself and your own family, to have some pleasure? And I think, if people who in these companies and in these professions take some time and really think, why am I doing this? What is the long-term purpose I seek for myself and for society? Then I think things in our world would really change a lot. Yeah, because if people were able to transform their intentions, their motivations, and make them for the benefit of others, and then, first of all the tech companies would be honest, all the scientists would be honest, all the companies who derive profit out of scientific and technological findings. Yeah, the people who make cars, the people who are sending people to space tourism. My goodness, I must say, I was really glad that Prince William spoke up and said people should try and solve the problems on this planet instead of competing with each other for who can go higher in space. Yeah, I mean, really, that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? There's so much suffering here, and they could do so much good if they had the right intention. Yeah, and you can see that that is what is often what is the missing factor for people who have wealth or people who have, science background or technological background. So I'm speaking in a very general way. Many of these people have very kind hearts, but the moment we start thinking of ourselves as, what's best for me, I am an individual, I am more important than anybody else. The moment we get locked into that, we're actually locking ourselves out of connecting with other people. And we're locking ourselves out of having a profession and a livelihood that really benefits society. Because then the whole purpose becomes making money, being famous, whatever field you're in, you want to be at the top, you want to be renowned, you want people to write articles about you. Okay, and you want to be powerful. And you want that, but does it lead to inner satisfaction and inner peace? Yeah, and what are we really looking for? Okay, so I think it would be very helpful for people who are in these kind of jobs to really think. Yeah, at the beginning, like with the tech industry, the people who began it, Facebook and all the social platforms and stuff, they were saying, this is fantastic. We want to connect people. And it's going to be such a good thing to get people from all sorts of walks of life to be able to connect and get to know each other and learn about each other's lives and share ideas and, learn about cultures and different things like that. And they had that motivation when they started out. And then little by little by little, it went the American way to where you prize, the almighty dollar. And some of them have realized, what has become, what they started off with a good intention and what has become of it. There's a documentary called Social Dilemma. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I really encourage you to watch that documentary. It's really interesting because it has some of these people who started all the social media things speaking about what has happened in the meantime and how they feel about it. Yeah. Then in terms of the scientists, I think last time I spoke at NIC, I talked a little bit about the scientists who developed the atom bomb that was used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah. And that these people, there was many of them, there was a fascination with science. What can we build? How does the atom work? And so there was an intellectual fascination with with discovering, how things work on a subatomic level. Yeah. So for some of them, that was the motivation. Some of those people had a sense of how the government would use their scientific knowledge. Some of those people kind of ignored. They may have known about some of it, but they ignored it. And some people may not have known much at all. But when we look, has the A bomb or, the H bomb, any of these bombs, have they helped society? Yeah, I don't see any benefit. The more nuclear things are proliferated, the more danger everybody is in. And there was something I read that was so interesting. One of the guys who worked on it, after the bomb was exploded, he said, now we're all sons of bitches. Yeah. And he was talking about himself and all of his colleagues who used science to develop the bomb, which was then used to destroy hundreds and thousands of lives. And, when he said, we are all sons of bitches, excuse my French, but this is what he said. What does we include? Is it just the people who made the bomb? Does it include the people in the government who planned the flight route and made the decision to drop the bomb? Does it include the people who built the planes? Yeah, there's so many people, millions of people involved in the production of the bomb and the dropping of the bomb. And how do those people feel now about their role in it? Yeah. Were they really aware? And when they were testing the bomb, they tested it right out in the middle of the desert. There were people living around, maybe not 10 miles away, but further away. But the fallout went hundreds of miles. They did not tell any of those people living in that radius what they were doing or that they might be harmed by the radiation. And then you have years later, certain towns where there's certain particular deformities, where babies are dying very young. Yeah. So those people may feel powerful. Look, we exploded the atom, or we took part in winning the war. Yeah. But how do they feel inside when they think about the effect on other living beings? Yeah. Because I think at the end of the day, okay, what really matters to us is how we feel about ourselves inside. Yes, we're attached to our reputation. We're attached to what people think about us. Okay, we're attached to money and power and so on. But when you get those things, do any of them really fill the feeling of emptiness in our hearts? Yeah. Do any of those really make us feel satisfied with our lives and feel good about ourselves? I don't think so. Yeah, because those feelings of satisfaction, being content, feeling good about how we live, that comes through our intention. It comes through ethical conduct. It comes through benefiting others. Okay. So we have to look at those things when we really look at our lives. Okay, so just a little bit more, okay, how can science and technology be used in society? Well, I think everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to have long life. Yeah. Now, if you're a pharmacist or if you are a business person who owns a pharmaceutical company, if you really looked at others and recognize that they want health and long life, would you deliberately push drugs that people don't need? Would you charge outrageous prices for drugs that people really need? Would you be stingy about sharing the formulas for making these medicines, or would you share them with other countries? Okay, so science can help so much in terms of bringing health and long life, but how we use the science depends on our mind, on our attitude, our motivation. Okay. Everybody thinks education is a good thing. Yeah. And again, look, in the days of COVID, you may not like doing your classes online, but it beats not getting an education. Yeah. And you can meet with all sorts of people during COVID and learn all sorts of things that you never would have learned otherwise. I mean, we have at the place where I live, so many people who have never explored Buddhism before, and now they're attending teachings on Zoom. Okay. So there's that possibility for people to learn new things. Yeah. And to really help with education, especially in undeveloped countries or underdeveloped countries. So to really, use science and technology to increase the level of education and to really think about what we want to educate children in, children and adults, okay? Because we usually think, we need to teach them, reading, writing, and arithmetic, yeah? We want to teach them facts. We want to teach them skills. But what makes a country peaceful? Yeah, it's not just people having facts and skills and getting jobs. It's knowing how to be a good citizen. Yeah, it's not patriotic, yay, 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 where you have no idea why you're rooting for your country, except that it's yours. But what does being a good citizen mean? And how can we use science and technology to teach kids to take care of other people and to value other people that they live with, and to not judge them according to the color of their skin or where their families came from or any of that kind of stuff. Okay. I think people also want family harmony. They want to get along with families, with their family members. How many people get along with their family members? Yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah, you may get along with a few family members, but not others. but how can we teach how to be a good family member? Yeah. How can we teach forgiveness when family members' actions sometimes disappoint us? Yeah. How can we learn in school nonviolent communication and how to communicate our feelings and needs to other people without demanding that they do what we want them to do? Okay. So again, science and technology have so much potential, but it all depends on the motivation of the people who put them to use, what their motivation is. Yeah. And that's why I started out the talk emphasizing so much our motivation, and talking about that throughout the whole talk. Okay. Because it really isn't just caring about me. Yeah. When the people around us are unhappy, then we live in an unhappy society. And then we face other people's unhappiness all the time. Yeah. When we care about that, we try and do whatever we can, small things that can ease people's lives. Okay, I'll give you an example. So it's something I did today. So I'm not bragging and boasting because it was a teeny thing. So many people send us packages, and the FedEx person is a woman. I would say she's got to be in her 50s. And she is carrying these packages from Costco, because, Costco, everything comes in bulk. So these enormous packages, they say that they weigh 40 pounds, but it feels like they weigh more. And here she is, she has to unload these packages and leave them at people's doorsteps, especially ours. And there's a whole bunch of packages waiting for us to take inside right now. So I've talked to her a few times when she's come, and I always try and thank her and acknowledge what she's done. And today, when she was lifting one of the heavy boxes, I took one half of it and helped her lift it. And she seemed so appreciative of that, And when I thanked her and said how much her work, helps us, her face changed because she was not in a good mood when she arrived here with all these heavy boxes to unload. Okay. So it's just, this is tiny stuff, but I'm showing it as an example because it can really make a difference in other people's lives if they feel appreciated for what they're doing instead of just taken for granted. Okay, so motivation, how, wanting to be a benefit. Okay, so I think I've talked long enough. Let's open it now to questions and some discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Venerable, very much. As you were speaking, I was thinking a little bit. I work in technology, so we think about, like, let's say building a product versus an enhancement, right? And so I was thinking a little bit about when we're working with a team, we even agree on, a good motivation. How can we work with the team, when it's good enough, in other words? how can we say like, okay, this is good enough. We've reached our intended goal. We don't need an enhancement, right? Because maybe that's where the intention gets muddied. I would be curious to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm not sure. So you're working to develop new products and then enhance the products you already have. Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a simple example. Yeah, develop
Okay.
a product and then enhance it.
Yeah, I think, to stop when you have ideas and people brainstorm ideas for products, to think, how can these be used? And can they be used to help people? And can they also be used to harm people? Because the thing with social media, they only thought about how it can help people, but they didn't think about how that same technology could lead us, to all sorts of damage in society. So I think there really has to be that discussion of, the good that can come from it, and honestly, the harm that can come with it. And then perhaps decide not to do that, or not to enhance the product, or to put in certain barriers so that people cannot use it to damage others. Okay. But I also have this question about, why do we always need to come out with more and better and more and better? When as Americans, especially, we are using more than our fair share of the world's resources, and we are creating junkyards full of old technology things. And many of them have chemicals and minerals and so in them that are very harmful for life and very harmful for the environment. And these things just get thrown in the dump, without any responsibility on the side of the people who manufacture them, to either warn of the health disadvantages, or to gather these things back when they're out of favor, when they're old-fashioned, and recycle them. It's this kind of care for society that people in tech need to have. Yeah. Otherwise, we just continue using more and more of the Earth's resources until they're not available anymore, and okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I think that was great. I really appreciate bringing up the aspect early of what are the potential harms, as a way for us to know what's needed in a product versus what's an enhancement. Very, very helpful.
Yeah. And really taking that up the ladder to the corporate people, and say, look, this isn't just about making money. It's really about benefiting society and benefiting individuals, or harming them. Matt?
Yes, thank you, Venerable Trajon. I don't work in science and technology, but as you stated, science and technology pervades our lives, and you identified a number of things that I think are noteworthy, in the sense that the motivations and the momentum behind all these things, I think, are difficult to change, and so it's going to happen gradually. I agree, and I think you've correctly identified that the motivations of the individuals are going to have to change. Otherwise, the momentum and the pervasiveness of all that is just going to continue to reinvent itself.
Yeah.
And so, what is a reasonable way for, I guess, anyone to kind of gradually affect that change in their own environment, being who they are with the skills that they have and the opportunity that they have to kind of address that long-term change?
Good question. Thank you. I think first we have to work on ourselves and begin to really change our own motivations. Learn to really think about what we say to other people and the effect of our words on other people, whether it's at home or at work. Words are very powerful. Yeah. And so to become more aware of that and improve our motivation around speaking. And then, okay, so work on ourselves first, and then take what we've learned and share it with the people that we work with. How to share it? I think, having different courses within the workplace. I know mindfulness is the big hit now in companies. I'm not so sure how well it works, and I'm not so sure if the motivation is always a good one. Sometimes I wonder if the motivation is to get the employees to be happier so that they work harder and make more money. Yeah, but to, have a way within a company to talk about values and to talk about, why do you want to work in this company? Why do you want to work in this job? So that people begin to think about that and share that with others. And then that picks up a whole different motivation. One thing we do here, the Abbey is a community, is many times every day we talk about our motivation. And we just stop. And before we start different activities, we take turns and somebody will, speak a few words to get us all centered again on our motivation. And it's just part of our lives. And it has the effect of continually reminding ourselves of what is important in our lives and how we want to be as a human being. And of course, we're all works in progress and we make mistakes. We don't always live according to our motivations and our aspirations. But this process of, in a community kind of way, reminding ourselves of these things, I think is it has an impact. Yeah. So similarly, before a nice practice before you go to work is, instead of just rushing around the house, grabbing whatever you need to go to work, jumping in the car, to think, why am I going to work? Yeah, and to be truthful, yes, I need the finances, for my livelihood and my family, but also, yeah, I want to go to work to make a positive contribution to society. So if I'm working with clients, I want to do what is best for the clients. If I'm working with customers, I want to really serve them properly and not cheat them or overcharge them. Okay. And so to really, again, before you go to work, it only takes a few minutes to really generate that motivation. And then when you come home from work, instead of just, rushing in the door and throwing things and collapsing on the sofa and yelling to somebody in your family to bring you something to eat, before you open the door to your home, to think, I'm going in to see the people who are the most important in my life, the people that I care about the most in my life. And so, yes, I may be tired from work and who knows what happened at work today, but I want to be kind to my family members. And I want to talk to my kids. I don't want to be a drill sergeant with my kids. I want to really talk with them and find out about their day and what they're interested in. Okay, so this process of always reminding ourselves Yeah. And in groups, for everybody in the group to remind each other too, to make it a group activity. Let's just take a couple of minutes and come back to our breath and think about what you heard in the talk tonight. Recall what you heard. And then second is think how you can integrate this in your own life. And then let's rejoice at what we did together this evening, because having a talk like this is a very interdependent process. It's not just about one person speaking, it's about how the audience reacts. So all of us were engaged in a kind of sharing over something that is actually quite valuable to think about and discuss. So let's spend a minute and really rejoice at what we did. Be happy, feel content with what we did together. And then the positive potential we created, the good energy we created from thinking about something that is valuable with the motivation to be of benefit to others. Let's dedicate all that good energy, that positive potential for the happiness and the welfare of each and every living being. Okay, very good. So, thank you all.
Venerable children, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with all of us this evening. It's always an honor.
Okay,
Thank you to you and
Yeah.
everyone at the Abbey.
yeah. And everybody at NIC who made this happen too. A lot of people working behind the scenes that we don't see. Okay, thank you.
Have a
Be
nice
well.
evening, everyone.